Hey everyone, it's Ashley and I'm back with another video. Today, this is part of our 25 days of crafting celebration and I'm so excited to share this one with you guys. I think you'll love it. We're going to be making DIY Mickey Mouse cards. There are 3 different cards I'm going to show you guys and there will be timestamps on each picture. That way you can go straight to the project if there's one that catches your eye in particular. If you haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on future content, learning some skills, tips, tricks, and more. So I'll see you guys in just a moment. So we're in the desktop version of Cricut Design Space, and I thought I'd walk you guys through how I kind of look for projects, and if you're looking for something that to just inspire you, this is kind of like Pinterest to me, at least. I love looking through Pinterest, but sometimes I just like looking through all of the different projects on Cricut Design Space. So this is how this card project came about. Was I was just browsing around and I was really in the mood to find something that was kind of Disney related. So I went into the categories. You can go to the projects window here and you can just type in all categories. And in the search, you can just search for something that you're in the mood for. You could search for holiday, you could search for, an animal, any type of different style that you like. So I'm going to type in Mickey. And what it does is it brings up some really cute things. So I saw this and instantly I fell in love with the cards. I was like, I want to make some of those cards. So I went ahead and made all 3 of these. This one I didn't see. So I'm going to have to go back and make that one. But I'm really excited because I get to show you guys making these ones. So I'm going to go through and leave all the links for each of these projects below so that way you can find them. And you can go straight to the project. But if you're wondering how you can go and find different types of projects inside Cricut Design Space, this is just how I do it. So hopefully this helped you guys, and I'm going to start walking you through each of the different cards, and you'll have to tell me. Leave a comment below, let me know which one is your favorite. I have my own favorite, but I'm not going to tell you guys until you tell me, because I'm really excited to see what you guys say. I have all of the different cardstock here ready to go. I changed up the colors a little bit on the design. I decided instead of plaid, I'm going to go with this really pretty patterned one. So the neat thing is, if you don't like how the color scheme is for something, you can always change it up inside Design Space. We're going to break out our blue mat here, and we're just going to follow the prompts on the screen to make sure that we're inserting the correct color. So right now we're going to be working on the tan colored cardstock on this one. So I'm going to take this kind of like a creamy off tan color. When you're using anything like paper, you're going to break out the light grip mat because you don't want the adhesive to be too strong when you're working with paper or cardstock. And I always recommend keeping the covers on your mats if you can. It just prevents dust or anything from getting on top of it. So let's go ahead and load our mat here. We're just going to make sure to center it inside the lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. There is a 1/4 inch leeway around the whole mat that Design Space builds into your project, so that's something to keep in mind. We'll open up our machine. We're going to make sure that we have the correct blade attached in here, which is the fine point blade. So I'm going to select which material I'm using. So I'm selecting continue. And then I'm going to go through and choose, for this one I'm using cardstock. Whenever you're switching around between different materials, make sure that you're selecting the right material for what you're making. The light's flashing and ready to go, which tells us that we can load our project in the machine. Make sure that you have it underneath these little guides here, and we're going to load that in. Our next step is when the flashing light goes, we're going to go ahead and press that. That's to indicate to the machine that we're ready for it to cut. Our project is ready to unload for this one. We're going to remove this, as you can see, or you might, hopefully you can see, there's the outline of the first part that we cut. We're going to flip our mat over And then we'll unroll our mat from the project. We don't want to bend or tear our project, but you can bend your mat away from it. And this keeps your cardstock nice and flat. So we'll take our first piece here and set it aside. Now we'll load up the next one, which is the light green. So I'm going to take my cardstock here and get the light green one ready. Same thing that we did with the mat first, which was make sure we load this up and we have everything within the little guidelines here. This is still set to cardstock, so it's ready to go. We'll load our mat in. It's ready to unload. Same thing as before, we're going to flip our mat over and remove our project by rolling the mat away. And here's our cute little part of our sweater. The neat thing is, as you're building this, you can kind of see things come together on what it's going to look like. Next, we're going to take our green cardstock and apply this to the mat as well. We'll load that in. Some dark heading. So as you can see, there's a lot of little pieces that cut out here. We're going to flip this over and remove it the same way, and then we'll probably have to clean off our mat of some of these little extra pieces that are left over. So you can see all the little pieces. It looked like it weeded basically everything, but there's one little spot here that I'm going to have to get separately. Okay. So we have our little cutout. We're going to set that one aside, and we're going to grab our scraper tool and scrape off the excess of this. Next, we're loading the deluxe paper on here. I thought this would be a really great contrast between our little pieces here, and aren't they super cute? So what we'll do is we'll change out the settings on the machine from cardstock to deluxe paper, and then we're going to load this into the machine. Unload the mat, and same thing, flip it over and remove the pieces. set those aside. Our next step is to load our red cardstock onto our mat here. Make sure that you have the material set to cardstock because we've been switching back and forth between deluxe paper and cardstock. And we're going to be using the single scoring wheel in clamp B. I have my little tool caddy here, and I'm going to grab the single scoring wheel. This is the one that is labeled 01, and there's a little half moon shape, so make sure you put the flat half moon shape towards the back. The single scoring wheel, what it does is it creates a little scoring line so that way we can fold our card. So for this part of the project, it's going to create a score line, and then we're going to switch to the fine point blade to cut out the design. We're going to switch tools back to the fine point blade. And then continue our project. You don't want to remove your project from the mat when you're working. You just continue to change out the tools as needed. We'll unload our project. And if you look at our mat, we have these little Mickeys here, so make sure you're careful when you remove those ones because that will be the very front of the design. And we'll do the same thing to remove this. We can take our mat and turn it upside down. If you're having problems removing this from where you're working, you can also use the spatula tool and it'll help you to remove paper more easily. I'm just always careful to keep my hand on the material and go slowly. Here are our little Mickeys, so just make sure you're removing them carefully. You can use the spatula tool for that part as well. But if I bend the mat, it comes off pretty easily. And then when you're working on a project and you notice you have these little crumbs here, the same way that you would have with this layered piece here where there's a ton of little cutouts, whenever you have that, take your scraper tool and you're just going to want to push it towards the edge of the mat to remove it. You can also use a lint roller to pick up the little extra pieces so they don't sit on your work surface, but always make sure that you use a little scraper tool and remove the little extra bits. And just try not to push too hard with too much pressure with the scraper tool. We want to keep the bulk of the adhesive on this mat. Now that we have our little cut pieces, we're going to work on assembling the card. And when you're looking at the card, you'll see the little line where the scoring tool was used. Always make sure that wherever the little valley or the little line is, you're going to fold away from that. So we're going to fold down on this. So we're just going to follow this line, because what this does is this pushes this down and it moves the paper so there's a little bit of extra space. You're going to use that as your guide for the outside, and we're going to fold down. And what you can do is also use something like your scraper tool, and you can just go over that once, and then that helps as well, so that way you have a nice clean fold on this. And now we have the base for our card. So now we're working on assembling the pieces. So we're going to take our cute little first layer here, and we'll use our Dollar Tree adhesives. This is the double-sided tape, and I also have some of the 3D foam tape. So we're going to use double-sided tape for this part. I'm going to turn this over and apply some double-sided tape to this, and then apply this layer. pretty sure I always over tape all of my cardstock projects, but I like to make sure that nothing moves around, so you probably don't even need this much adhesive. So we'll take this and then we're just going to center it so we have that nice 3D kind of layered look to it. And this is great for using the brayer tool. If you don't have a brayer tool, just make sure that you press down across the whole area. If you do have a brayer tool, this is a great time to break it out. As always, if I have any tools that I'm using or any materials, I will link it in the description box below, so that way you can have access to all that information. I do have links that are affiliate links which support my tutorials and my channel, so I always appreciate if you use my links, and there's a special coupon code for you guys as well down there. Now let's work on assembling the next step here, which is this cute little cardstock bit. So as you can see, there are multiple layers to this. What you're going to do is in Design Space, you can see the different layers and how they're assembled. So we'll just start with the bottom layer and then the next layer that goes over it. So as you can see, they get progressively smaller. So we're going to use the kind of tan cream color for the back there. Then the light green. The light green is going to be a little pop through the sweater, so you can kind of see the details of the sweater. So let's get a better close-up here. And let's start assembling those sections. So we'll take our cardstock that is that kind of light cream tan color, and we're going to use the double-sided tape again. And we'll just add some pieces of double-sided tape. This is a super fun little project to do. So if you're looking for something that has that really nice custom look, like you bought handmade, specialty cards, this is a great way to do it. And then people know also that you spent extra time because you wanted to make something lovely for them. So this is a really great, personalized way to say happy holidays to somebody. And it doesn't have to cost a lot. All of these materials are very inexpensive. It's all Dollar Tree and like cardstock and paper. So this is a great way to have an inexpensive project that still has a lot of meaning behind it. And they're super cute. I would totally save this and put this up as decorations every year. You could put this in a picture frame. This would be super cute. Okay, so I'm going to add this to here. And then next we're going to assemble these two pieces together, which are the little sweater and the little background for the sweater. So we're going to add this to here first before we apply it to here, and that way we get the best result. So what I'm going to do is, because we have all of these little cutouts here, you could use something like little tiny pieces of the double adhesive, or you could use a specialty glue. For me, I think this is going to be the easiest if I just use the double-sided tape. I'm just going to add this in the sections in between wherever there's no cutouts. So just make sure you press down all your little adhesive pieces so that way they stay in place. And we'll remove the backing from them. We'll take our little bottom section here and we're just going to layer this over the top using the outline as our guide. Same thing, you can press this down or you can use a brayer tool, and this just makes sure you get the maximum adhesion between both layers. Now we're ready to add our little cute sweater to our card here. And as you can see, there's a little extra bit of layer around it, so that way it just makes it pop, having those 3D effects. So we'll take more double-sided tape here. So we'll take our little project, we'll just kind of hover it over here so that we make sure that we have it exactly where we want it. I'm pressing down the center section first before I do the arms, and then I'm going to use the brayer on this. Next, we're going to take our little Mickey pieces, and this is where you could use something like the 3D tape if you wanted an even more 3D effect. You can always layer these with the foam tape, but I think it looks best on the accents that you really want to pop up. So I'm going to use this for the little Mickey pieces just to add a little tiny 3D impact on here. If you're worried about it fitting inside a card when you're mailing it, you can always use a flat adhesive like the double-sided adhesive. But if this is really great if you're wanting just a little bit of a bump, something that makes it stand out. So I'm going to remove the backing for the foam tape, and we're going to press these in the middle. This is where you can add any types of embellishments that you want to use. There's tons of ribbon at Dollar Tree you can use. There's little stickers. I'm going to just add the little accents here with the ribbon. So what I'm going to do is take this ribbon, I believe this is 79 cents at Walmart. I'm just going to fold this over like this, and we will glue it on the back side here. So we're going to use the hot glue gun for this part. I have this set to a lower temperature just to make sure that this will not burn. So I'm just going to figure out exactly where I want this to be, and then I'm going to add a little tiny, just the tiniest drop here to keep this in place. And then what we can do is take our card, flip this over, and we can see exactly where this will attach, so we can kind of fold this over and make sure that we attach this in here with a little drop of hot glue. So just make sure to fold this over and add a little drop of hot glue to keep this exactly where you want it. And don't worry about this being on the inside of the card, because we have this little section here that we're going to use to cover it, and so it'll still have a nice look on the inside of the card. Now let's work on this section as well. So what I'm going to do is take this, and I'm going to try to create a little tiny mini bow. Bows are not my strong suit, but I feel like I'm just going to make a very basic bow, just like a normal, regular, tiny little bow. And we'll make this as small as possible so that this one pops on the card. So we just cut a little angled piece on this. If you want, you can use something called fray check, and it will keep the ends from fraying on here. so that way it stays as nice as possible. And we're just going to hot glue this to the front of our card. Now we have our card, it's ready to go. We're just going to add a little bit of glue to the inside of this. So this covers up the ribbon so you don't see that anymore. And because it's on a low temperature, it should be fine. I'm going to use my brayer tool on this just to make sure I get as much adhesive contact here as possible. And now we have our cute little finished Mickey card. Isn't that adorable? And you can just add a nice personalized message in here. And they have matching envelope patterns on Cricut Design Space as well, if you want to make a matching pattern with it. I think this would just be lovely to give for the holidays, and you could add this to pretty much anything and it would make the present feel more special. We're working on our next card now, so same deal as before. We're setting our base material to cardstock, and we're going to use this nice bright white one and add it to our mat. So we're just making sure that this is centered in the mat. Let's open up our machine. We have the fine point blade in here, which is perfect. That's exactly what we need. We'll load this in. And now we'll have it cut. Remove this from the machine, and then from our mat you can see the little cutouts. We'll just flip this over and remove it. Next we're going to cut out the little Mickey, and for the little Mickey I'm using him as a background piece, so I'm using a piece of deluxe paper here, and I'm just going to add this in. Make sure to change out your material setting to deluxe paper if you're using deluxe paper as well. Just make sure you always change out your material settings if you're switching between different kinds of paper. I'm going to load that one in. Unload this and also remove it from the mat. We're going to flip this over. And this is a great time you could use your spatula tool to help remove it so that way it doesn't bend. Here's where I'm differing from the original design. The original design has a single little Mickey. I'm going to layer the Mickey, and I made a slightly smaller Mickey head to go inside of this one, so I'm going to be using the patterned paper for this one. This is a great way to use up patterns, or to use if you don't have sparkle paper or something like that, you can add some little pieces as accents. thing, we're going to flip this over and remove the materials. I switched my material back to cardstock, and we're going to apply this to the mat. I'm switching my material back to deluxe paper because I'm using this really lovely kind of hunter green paper. We'll load this into the machine. Remove these, and these have a lot of little cutout pieces, so we will have to clean our mat with our scraper. We're on the last step of creating our card. We're going to apply our cardstock and then insert this into the machine. Because we're going to be making a score line in this, we're going to switch out to the scoring tool. We'll switch out the tool in here for the fine point blade. It's ready to cut the card part out now. This is when it's a great time to break out the little spatula tool. You can use it on cardstock and paper, and this just helps you to get a piece that's really on there, especially this one. This has been cut for a while, so we're just going to use this to slowly lift up so that way we can remove our little cut piece. When you remove something from the mat that has a lot of cuts that are intricate, you'll notice that it leaves behind a lot. So just use your scraper tool and make sure that you push towards the outside of the mat. Be careful not to push too hard because we don't want to lose any adhesive. But the idea is you want to remove all of the little extra bits so it doesn't get in the way when you're cutting next time. You can use something like a lint roller, and that also helps to pick up all the little pieces from your work surface. We have all of our pieces ready to assemble. This is the score line that we created, so we're going to fold away from the score line. And I'm just going to use my scraper tool. So the card base is created. The next step is to create the cute little sweater along with all of this. We're going to put a little layer on the background first. So this is where we can break out our double-sided tape, and we'll just put a layer of double-sided tape on the back of this. Now that these are pressed down, we'll remove the backing. We'll take our card and center this on here. And you can press it down or use your brayer tool. Now we're going to build the little sweater. So we have our little sweater. We're going to work on the sweater first before we apply it to the card. Add our little cute sweater here. So I'm going to take this, and in case you guys haven't seen how detailed the Maker can cut, look at all the little details on there. So you can kind of see through as highlights for the sweater. So I'm going to add little pieces in here. We're just making sure to line this up along the top here because we're going to be putting our little collar for our sweater. So it's all lined up on the top here. You can press this down with your hands or use your tool again. And we have all of these cute little pieces that we can add here. So there's this on the bottom, this for the collar, and then the little cuffs. Oops. They're shaped differently, so you can make sure you're applying it to the right section. So all we're going to do is glue down those pieces next, and then we can add the little Mickey accents to it. Now we're down to our little Mickey. So the original instructions just have you put a little cute one in the center. I also sized down one. I made a duplicate of this and then sized it down so that I could layer another Mickey on top of it. So what we'll do is we'll turn this around and add a little bit of the double-sided tape. Actually, for this one, I think I'm going to make this one a pop-up one. So I'm going to take a piece of the foam tape that'll give it this kind of 3D effect, and that way it pops up a little bit from what we're creating. You can adhere this first before you use the foam tape. It might be a little bit easier. I just decided this on the fly, so I put another piece just to give it a little bit more stability in the center. So I haven't removed the backing from this. I'm going to adhere this to this before I do that. So I'll use the double-sided tape for this section. pressing this. And now we'll take our double-sided backing off, and we can take our little Mickey and just apply him to the center and press down. You can use your brayer on this. Before I apply this to the front of our card, I'm going to take the little white piece of cardstock and apply this to the inside, so that way we can write on this section, and then we'll have our little Mickey on the front. So I'm going to take some double-sided tape for this and just apply this to the backing. And now we can apply our cute little Mickey sweater to the front. We could do this 3D, or we can just do this with regular tape. I'm going to use the double-sided tape because I like the Mickey being the main element that sticks out. So I'm just going to flip this over. And we'll place this in the center of our card. Oops. Can use our brayer on these ends. And if you wanted, you could add some little accents to the corners here, and it's ready to go. So for the third card, I'm using up some of the scraps from my other project. So this is a great way if you're using up cardstock, you can kind of turn it around, make sure your measurements are accurate, and if you have enough space to use up some of the leftovers, definitely do that. That's what I'm doing right now. I have the material set on this one to cardstock, and as every time we switch out, we're switching to the correct material. Okay, we have all of our different little cutout pieces here to assemble. Let's start with the card. So this is the area that is going to be the outside of our card, and the score line was here, so we're just going to fold that in. And we can use our tool if we want to, or just to press it and to make sure that it will stay in place. So now that we have the outside of the card, let's go ahead and add the next layer to it. So I have this layer, and I could do something like that, or I have this layer. I'm really leaning towards the solids because I want what the center of this is to kind of pop out. So let's add some double-sided tape to this. The neat thing about Cricut Deluxe paper is that the Deluxe paper is double-sided. So you can use some of it for one type of project and then switch it over for a different type of project after that. So you have double the looks in your projects. I still have some of this paper left, so I'm definitely going to use this for another project where I use the pattern side as well, because I love the pattern side on this. But the color was just perfect, so I wanted to use the color for this side. We're just going to place this in the center here. And then press it down. You can use your brayer tool. And we're going to build the next pieces here. So we have the background for our little cup. We have multiple layers that go with it. So it'll go like this, where you're building on top so that the gray shows through in the background. So we're going to have the gray here. We're just going to build on that. Build those two layers, and then we're going to build our Mickey layer on that, and then we'll apply that to the card. So that's kind of how we're going to assemble it. So let's go back to the original, which is where we're going to remove these extra layers. So I'm going to apply these to the card right now using the double-sided tape. When you have a piece that is really difficult to get adhesive on, you could use regular glue, or you can just trim to match it. So I'm just going to trim to match it because I really don't want to break out a bunch of different glues for this. I'm trying to keep this project very simple and just fun. So I'm just going to trim around anywhere that the adhesive might show. And now we're going to layer on, once I get this piece on here too, we'll layer on these little pieces as well. Okay, so before I put the little Mickey on, since that's going to be 3D, I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this so that I can apply it to here, and then we'll put our little 3D Mickey on right after that. And now we have our little area to write in. So what I'm going to do is make sure to put the smooth side of the cardstock up so it's easy to write in. We'll adhere this to here, and then we'll add the little Mickey on the front. Now we can take our little 3D tape, and we have our little Mickey. We're going to flip him over and add some of the 3D tape. Now we have our cute little finished card, and then there's an area to write. There's an area to write inside. Which one was your favorite? I hope you enjoyed looking through all of these different cards, and I'm excited to make even more of these for all the special people in my life. And if I could, I would make one for each one of you too. So thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to show you some more awesome DIYs for the holidays. If you haven't yet, click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.